I'm a PhD student at Vanderbilt in biological sciences, and I just wanted to bring up some things that I wish people had told me before I entered the program. I love the classes and the professors and students and all of the people that I work with on a daily basis, but I was told specifically that Vanderbilt was accessible and that they would give me all of my disability accommodations, and I did not find this to be the case. I had many disability accommodations be denied, and I spent years and I had to get lawyers in order to get the accommodations that I'm now approved for. It was very frustrating and very life altering, and before I was approved, I was told that I could either continue without accommodations or I could master out of my PhD program, which is essentially just leaving with a master's degree instead of a PhD. Vanderbilt Student Access, which is the Office of Disabilities, is severely underfunded, and they don't have the proper amount of staff members in order to serve all of the students. They also pretty much only do accommodations relating to the classroom, and to get accommodations outside of that is very difficult. They also don't know anything about PhD programs and what that looks like, and they also don't know anything about science, so it was very difficult trying to get accommodations in a science lab. Even getting across campus is incredibly difficult. They have an accessibility map, but when I was looking for accessible routes, I found that they were wrong. To get into my building, there was a route that was essentially, it said it was accessible, but when I actually walked that route, I noticed that there was no curb dip, and so in order to get into the building and to get to the accessible ramp so you could get in the building and not go upstairs, you had to go over a curb dip. And I reported this, but I still have not seen anything done, and it's been several months. There was also handicap parking in front of my building, but unfortunately, there was no way for anybody in a wheelchair to get into the building because the only place that had a ramp was, this was a different building than the one I was in. It was right next to it. The only place that had a ramp was the loading bay for different trucks, and that was pretty much always blocked. And then once you got up that ramp, there was no push to open door. And then to get into my building, which was next to it, you again had to go up that curb ramp. I also asked for strategies for people who are mobility impaired and cannot use the stairs in case of a fire. And I explained how dangerous it was because everywhere just had stairs, and if you can't use an elevator, how are people supposed to exit? And I have not received response back, and it's been months. I've been told by previous students that the only way to get anything disability wise changed at the university was to go to the news, and I found this incredibly true, which just shows that they care more about how they are being perceived by the public than they do about the students that are being impacted on a daily basis. And oftentimes when I spoke up about disability issues and tried to explain how unethical it was that I was getting accommodations denied and that the campus wasn't accessible, I was sort of treated like I was being a problem, and it wasn't that I was looking out for people, it was that I was being a problem and attacking people, which wasn't the case. And I get, like, I have autism, so sometimes maybe I'm a little blunt, and if someone is doing something that is discriminatory to people with disabilities, I'm going to point it out, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And unfortunately, Vanderbilt has a policy where they are not going to give you approved disability accommodations until you accept your place in the program. So you can't even really plan out ahead to make sure that you have the accommodations. And even so, before I came and after I accepted, I had a few months before entering the program met with disability offices and got all of my accommodations approved, and they said they were approved, but then once I got there, things changed and suddenly it was a denial. Or what they approved wasn't actually what it was. Like, they said I was approved for absence flexibility, and when I tried to take absences from my lab for things like passing out or having other medical issues, I was told that my accommodation was not to give me extra sick days. It was, if you miss a day, you have to come in on the weekends or on holidays to make it up. And that's just not really applicable, especially in a PhD program where a lot of the times there's not classes. It's just you work when you work, and I was already doing like 60 hours a week. So coming in on the weekends or holidays, I was already doing, and that wouldn't make up any difference. And it wasn't logical. And Vanderbilt had a ton of DEI programs. We spent tens of hours in sessions about DEI. Not once did they mention disabilities. They talked a lot about race and class and sexuality and the country where you originated from, but again, disability was never mentioned. I had to push extremely hard to get it, so this was mentioned for oncoming classes and oncoming students. And during this whole process, I was talking about, for months, like, I have these medical bills that are tens of thousands of dollars a year typically. What can be done to help me pay for these bills? And I was told there was nothing, time and time again. And eventually, I think like 6 months into the program, students reached out and were like, oh, there's these medical funds that I found online through Vanderbilt that you can get to pay for medical bills and like time of emergency and medications. And I eventually applied for them, and I was given them, and a lot of my medical bills were covered and my medications are now covered. But that is thousands of dollars that I spent that I didn't have to, and they don't back pay. And Vanderbilt says that it values mental health, but the student care access where you can get therapy, which is they've got a program specific to PhD students and science, which I really liked, but it was very hard to get in, and they were very booked a lot. And I was told that I needed to get outside therapy in order to deal with my needs. And so they said that they could help find programs to help me pay for that, and I was accepted, and they only paid for 2 sessions. And when I applied for the upcoming semester, they denied me because it wasn't that semester. And I've been trying to get it now, and I was approved, but now they're saying, well, we need physical proof that you cannot use the services on Vanderbilt campus. And I've asked for providers to send that out to them because they were the ones who told me I couldn't use those services. And it's been several weeks and I have heard nothing back. So in the meantime, I've had to spend, I think, like $2,000 out of pocket just to go to therapy. And Vanderbilt has our medical policy has a cap. I think you have to pay $1,000 deductible for mental health services. And then once you pay that, you have to pay $70 or so out of pocket for each session. And outside of disability stuff, we have been trying to unionize, and the union has pushed for vision and dental, but it turns out the vision plan that we got, that we had supposedly won, only covers 1 free eye exam a year. No glasses, no nothing else. And then dental, I have gone to the dentist, and I have 2 dental policies, one through Vanderbilt and one not. And I got bills for several $100s each time I saw the dentist for a cleaning. And when we've been trying to unionize, we have enough people and enough votes in order to unionize and get the vote started. But Vanderbilt has sued the National Labor Board for privacy violations because they need our names and our salaries. That's all public information. And again, that's going to make it so we can't unionize for at least several years, if not more. And we don't get paid a living wage. I think we get paid about $38,000 a year now, but living in Nashville, that is not enough, and especially because most people work about 60 hours a week. So that's about like $13 an hour. I was getting paid $20 an hour to do undergrad research at UConn. And unfortunately, going to different grad programs, you might experience the same issues. I found public universities are better and they have better disability funding because the state oversees that. And I wish that I had just gone to UConn again, where I had amazing disability accommodations and an amazing disability office there. And at UConn, there were many programs to make sure that the voices of people with disabilities were being heard by admin.